Hey everybody, this is Darren Spader again, Bay Area News Group, Mercury News, East Bay Times, here with Joseph Dicus. Joseph still at Santa Clara University, it looks like. So, hey Joseph.
Sorry, I have something in my throat. I am in Santa Clara University. I'm actually right outside on this very comfortable concrete picnic table.
He's going to sleep on the bench tonight.
Yeah, let's not go that far.
For the big day tomorrow. Christian Babcock is home after being out at Santa Clara University for soccer. Nathan Canilau is home after going to Kezar Pavilion to see Alhambra win a section championship. And I am also home after sitting next to Joseph at the Levy Center, and we watched a very fascinating Open Division girls game in which Mitty beat Pinewood. And then, as expected, Reardon rolled to the Open Division CCS Boys Championship. We're going to start off with soccer because Christian Babcock tweeted early in the first half of the Bellarmine Everett Alvarez game that Bellarmine looked great and was up 2-0. And I think I was waiting for a Pinewood player to come out, Jolene Dean, to come out and from the locker room, so we get a quick quote for Joseph. And I was like, "Oh man, Bellarmine's going to roll." And I didn't pay much attention because we were watching the Reardon game, and then all of a sudden I looked and Christian has a final score of 4-2 Alvarez. What the heck happened, Christian?
Oh, wow. Yeah, a lot happened. It would be hard to it's going to be hard to jam it all into a, regular length article. But basically what happened, if I can summarize it somewhat quickly, is Bellarmine started out really well. I mean, they were pretty much putting on a clinic in the first 12 minutes, really making composed passes. They were finishing when they got in the box. That's how they got those 2 goals in rapid succession. They were really making good passes. They were doing kind of that basketball thing people always talk about, pass up a good shot for a great shot. I feel like you don't see that a lot in high school soccer. Honestly, a lot of levels of soccer. But they were very composed and they were very clinical in their finishing. And then Alvarez got a through ball and they got a goal to cut it to 2-1. And it was a little more even after that. And then in the second half, Bellarmine got a breakaway and Thomas Dumont, I think it was, got stonewalled. And after that, it was pretty much all Alvarez. They got a penalty kick about 5 minutes later, and they were just dominating the ball. They were fast. They were under control with the ball, very creative. You could tell they played together a lot, and they pretty much took over. I mean, even at the end, Bellarmine had one really good chance right at the end where the clock basically ran out, but Alvarez could have gotten a fifth a few times, so they really took that game over. That's a really good team they got down there in Salinas.
Describe the atmosphere. I mean, we were talking the other day that we thought that Alvarez might travel well. Did they travel well?
Yes, very much so. I think they had a few fan buses or something. They had pretty much half of the bleachers at Buck Shaw Field at Stevens Stadium packed out. Very good group. Bellarmine had a lot of people come too, so that was nice to see. Great atmosphere when the game really got rolling. I talked to Connor Salcido after the game, Bellarmine coach, and I said, you play these guys again in Salinas, you gonna travel that well? He's like, I don't know. We might have to hire some fan buses, see if we have that in the budget. So yeah, they really came and team showed out, and so did the fans.
Which, if they play again, would be in Salinas because Everett Alvarez is going to be seated higher in NorCal's. The brackets will come out on Sunday. Real quickly, you had the girls' game as well, which was the first game of the 2 at Santa Clara U, and St. Francis took care of business, won another Division I championship. They beat Mitty in the final last year, and then Mitty went on to win NorCal. So maybe, who knows what's going to happen next week. But how satisfied and how excited were the Lancers after winning another CCS championship?
Yeah, they were excited. It's funny, now that you brought that up, it just kind of reminds me it was a little bit business as usual. Of course, they were very excited. It's a big deal. Win a 15th CCS championship in the program's history, as you said, 3rd in a row. But I think they're kind of used to this at this point. I think, the fact that it was St. Francis Mitty, it's kind of been that a lot. They always play each other twice in the WCal, and then usually they match up in CCS, seems like, and then NorCal right back to it. So I think, like I said, bit of business as usual, but they were definitely excited. It was a game that, although it was 1-0, there were some really good chances. The goal actually was probably the worst chance of any of them. It just kind of slipped through, kind of a fluky play. The wind caught it. But, yeah, really good game. And I think if they play again in what would that be, 2 weeks, give or take?
No, it'll be next week. Next week.
If they play again next week, I think it would be another great game, and it could go either way. I will say St. Francis, people in soccer, I always find this hilarious, but they talk about deserving a win based on, possession and chances and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you deserve it by winning. You deserve it by putting the ball in the goal. That's just me. But
oh, you're not an expected goals guy? You're not an XG guy?
No. It goes in or it doesn't. That's all there is to it. I'm happy to give credit for good saves, but other than that, but I will say St. Francis had most of the possession. They were definitely the better team today. So
there you go. Thanks for the recap of the soccer action. We will get to the CCS Open basketball recap here in a second, but we'll go over to Nathan, who made the trip to San Francisco to see Alhambra, which we've noted several times on the show here. They benefited from competitive equity, where they finished low in their league, in the Diablo Athletic League, and pretty much every team from that league is home now, except Clayton Valley, I believe. Clayton Valley won the third place game tonight, so they will be going on to NorCal in out of the Division 1 bracket, out of NCS. Who knows which division they'll end up, Division 1 or 2 for NorCal. But Alhambra won Division 5 at Kezar Pavilion. How big was this for the Alhambra program, Nathan? And what were they saying afterwards?
Yeah, it was huge. They brought, we talk about, what kind of crowd they brought. Felt like they brought the whole city of Martinez down to San Francisco. There was a lot of people. They brought the mascot and parents and fans, and it was a lot. It was a gigantic win for them. It's their first NCS title in basketball. So I know how hard it is. They play in a really tough league, and it's 12 teams up in the DAL, and they usually finish, just historically in the bottom third of that league. But for them to win it, it was a big deal. The coaching staff it's really like a family oriented, kind of a family business, if you will. This coaching staff is, they're all related. It's a son and a dad. And all the sons, and the dad's kind of the assistant coach. But it was a big deal. I mean, this was a team that lost 7 of 8 in a 2-week stretch in January. They finished the year. I think they beat Concord to finish the year. And then they get a number 2 seed in Division 5. They rattle off 4 straight wins. What you can't take away from them is that they're battle tested. They played the best. They played Clayton Valley and Acalanes, all these teams that are up in these higher levels. And so they knew coming in that they could kind of hang with anybody. And tonight, I mean, there was a kid on International. I believe his name was I think it was Connor McGuire. He scored 63 points 2 weeks ago. He was held under 12 tonight. He was. They didn't make it. He set an NCS record, I think, in that game for. I think he made 14 threes. He didn't make a 3 tonight. Like they were pretty good. They was not the prettiest. They had a lot of turnovers. They had a lot of missed shots. A lot of moments where I think a lot of fans were scratching the hair out of their heads. But they pulled it off, and they like you said, they did benefit from competitive equity. But I think this is a big deal for them. They believe this is a really big stepping stone, and they think that they can win a state championship. That's the next thing for those guys.
That's great. Well, as we all know, it depends on where they end up. Didn't you cover D5 last year? And I mean, if they end up in D3 for NorCal, it's a little different than ending up like in D5, right?
Yeah, I think what happened last year at D5 was that had Royce won it, they beat Athenian. They're the 16th seed in D3. They get bounced in the first round by Santa Cruz, who eventually goes on to the state title game. And the team that beat Athenian stays in Division 5, and they win the Division 5 state title by a wide margin. So that's, I am kind of expecting that to kind of be the case here. I think they kind of proven through this playoff run that they were probably better than that Division 5 NCS. So I think they'll probably get bumped I would think at least a Division 4 at state.
All right. And last but not least, Joseph Dykes. That's not a fake background back there.
No,
that's a real tree. And is that Are those dorms back there?
No, that is the athletic center at Santa Clara U. I'm still on the scene.
There you go. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
dedication.
Joseph's still at Santa Clara U. We'll talk about Reardon first. Your story is posting, I believe, here in a minute. So people who watch this, that story will be up on the Mercury News and East Bay Times website. Reardon, we had talked about this. I mean, their average margin of victory in WCal was 38 points. So in a 14-0 season, which is unheard of in that league. And then they just continued their domination, except for that quote unquote nail biter when they beat Mitty by about 15. They flattened everybody else. Your story, you asked Joey Curtin, the coach at Reardon, if he thought this was the best team in CCS history.
Yeah.
And what did he say?
He said, yeah, I think we are. And he said, the consistency of the dominance. I mean, it's not like they're beating one team by 40 and one team by 10 and one team by 40 and then by 10. They're beating everyone by like 25 to 50 points. And they beat SI by, was it 26, I believe?
26 tonight,
26.
which was a step forward for SI, right? That's their coach said.
They had lost by 43 and 28. So he said if they play 15 or 20 more times, maybe by the 20th time, it'll be a close game. But I think Reardon is so good this year that they won by 26. And we felt like, oh, they didn't really play their best. They were like,
but they did play. They won by 26. They played well. I mean, I talked to Joey Curtin after, he did all the, interviews and stuff as he was coming off. I was outside the locker room area waiting for SI, and Joey and I talked, and this team has plays so well. And I think they learned, and I asked him this, and he goes, maybe so, that they learned from last year's great Salesian team, that was a team.
Mm-hmm.
And this Reardon team feels like a team. That's not a collection of individuals.
The way they reminded me of Salesian tonight was their defense.
Their defense. They communicate on defense, which is, I mentioned that to Joey, and he's like, absolutely. He's like, they're so sound defensively that they're going to be a tough team to beat.
I asked Ryder Bush, their guard. I asked him, hey, who sets the tone on defense? And he's like, oh, we all do.
Right.
It is. I think, in years past, you thought of Reardon as, oh, that's the team that's going to try to win games 85 to 80 or whatever, high scoring games. This Reardon team wants to lock you down.
Right. And it was kind of a weird game. I mean, Reardon was up 16-0 to start the game, but it wasn't like 16-0 in the first 4 minutes. It was like a grinding 16-0.
Mm-hmm.
St. Ignatius didn't get his first points till 48 seconds left in the first quarter. So that tells you what kind of defense Reardon was playing. Speaking of big leads early, in the girls' game, Archbishop Mitty came out on fire, and I was sitting next to Joseph, and we were like, "Is Doc going to call Doc Shepler, the coach of Pinewood? Is he going to call timeout? Is he going to call timeout?"
It was
that lead kept growing and growing. And finally, when it was 18-3,
yes,
Doc called timeout. And
sorry, you continue.
It didn't change right away, though.
No.
I mean, that timeout, Pinewood didn't get composed coming out of that timeout. They ended up falling behind 20-3, then 27-7 after the first quarter, 27-7, and it was 32-9 at one point. And for all of that, Pinewood outscored Mitty over the last 3 quarters, 44 to 32?
Yeah, 40, something like that.
Yeah, 44 to 32 over the last 3 quarters. They outscored them in every quarter but the first.
It wasn't like they just, caught on fire and it was, they're hitting all these threes. It was like, it was a gradual comeback. Right. It was like, you look and it's 20 now. And then, it's 15.
Right.
Oh, wow. It's 11.
And they get it to single digits. And then it got to single. And then it got to 6. And they had a
Valerie Cooker, I think is her last name, hit a 3 and was going crazy. And Mitty calls timeout. And I believe it was 49 to 43.
Yep. 6-point game.
And I was like, it's about to happen. But instead what happened was T. McCarthy, the sophomore guard of Midi, took over the game. They could not stop her. They gave her the ball, like, go cook, and that's what she did. She scored, I believe, 8 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. It was. I will say this though, Pinewood. I was very impressed. I think we all were, because I'm not gonna lie. When they went down by 32-9, I thought, okay,
32-9. I don't think I've ever seen a team fall behind 32-9 against Midi and claw its way back to a 6-point game.
On the other hand, though, I gotta give Midi credit. A lot of teams, if a teammate's coming like that, they're gonna fold. I mean, we've seen it before in high school basketball. Have a big lead, they lose the lead, then you lose. Midi, no, they called their time out. They recomposed themselves. They were able to hold Pinewood off, and they, and coaches talk about this all the time, which is sometimes playing a close game is good. You want to blow every team out, but this was good for Midi. Anyways, I got Christian's got his hand up, so.
Yeah, I can share an anecdote from the Buckshaw press box. I think I kind of had the opposite of what you had, Darren. We were, the boys' game was going on, and the camera operator for the NFHS stream had the basketball game on his phone, and I think it might have been halftime actually or something. And he's like, "Pinewood's within 6," and we're like, "What?" Because we had been, same thing. Last we had checked, they were up, 20 something. We figured, oh, that's it. But we kind of watched the end, and it was 6 a few times. Like Midi pushed it back, and then Pinewood pushed it back to 6. But, I mean, it's still, you come all that way back, you got to get 6 more against Midi. That's pretty tough. So.
Right. Although they had opportunities. I mean, there were a couple of layups that Pinewood would love to have back, and then they had a 3 that could have cut it to 3, and it just missed. It hit the rim and kind of bounced around and then didn't go in. I mean, they hit a couple of those shots. If they got it to a 1-score game, oh my God! I mean, it got down to 5, I think, at one point, right? It was a 5-point game.
Yes. No, I think it was 6 was the closest it ever got. Because every time they cut it,
right,
then Midi would answer. But there was a play where I'm pretty sure Pinewood had a 3, and that thing rimmed out, because we were all like, "Oh my gosh, if that thing goes down, it's a 1-possession game." Now all I gotta say is, man, I really hope that they meet. I hope they meet again in NorCal.
That would be tremendous.
They're an open team.
Nathan, what you were following it? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, when I saw they got cut to 6, I think it was like, it must have been like the second quarter of my game, and I was just like, "Oh, Doc's gonna do it."
There's still 2:10 left.
I was like, "Oh, Doc's gonna do it. They're gonna drop some. They're gonna get a stop. They're gonna drop some, get a 3, and then get one more stop, and then it's gonna come down to like a last play thing." But I give Midi a lot of credit. I mean, they like Joseph said, a lot of teams could have folded and they didn't. But
both of those teams deserve a lot of credit. I mean, you played high school basketball. How hard is it when you fall behind 32-9 to come back and make it a 6-point game?
Oh, that's might as well be like 100-point game. That's like that is just super in high school basketball. That's the possessions are slow, so the other team is just going to hold the ball for half the shot clock for the rest of the game if they get up that high. But for Pinewood to get stops like that, I'm actually really impressed defensively that they were actually kind of holding Midi to a certain degree and kind of getting more possessions. And it seems like from what you guys are saying, like they knocked down a few more shots. They're right there.
They could have won that. I mean, it was crazy. It was I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was there for the triple overtime game when Pinewood beat Midi in triple overtime for the NorCal Open Championship about 6 years ago. I mean, if they had made it a 1-possession game, because Pinewood brought students, that place would have been rocking. I mean, it was already rocking, but it would have erupted.
Yeah.
First of all, by the way, speaking of the atmosphere, of the game. Can you hear me?
Video. Take the video off. There you go.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Can you hear? Okay. So speaking of the atmosphere, just at the Levy Center, for the Pinewood Midi game, it was rocking by the fourth quarter. It was probably rocking for the entire second half. Honestly, both teams brought a good contingent. Honestly, I kind of thought there'd be more fans for the boys' game, Darren. I mean, I get it; they're both San Francisco schools. But there'd be a little bit more fans coming out to see Reardon.
Yeah, I was a little. Well, I think Reardon's dominance had an effect on the crowd size. I mean, they're just so good, and you know that there. I mean, because that game typically draws. I mean, if it's not completely full, like when you get a Bellarmine against Midi or a Midi against St. Francis, or Sarah against St. Francis, or I was surprised that like SI didn't have a student section there, and I don't even did Reardon have a student section? They had the band, but did they have a student section?
I think no, they had a small student section, yes. But you showed me,
but it wasn't like
you showed me the picture of when was it Bellarmine played St. Francis or Midi?
Bellarmine and Midi,
where it was standing room only.
It was, you saw it. It was standing room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you saw the student section. It was packed. Yeah. So I think Reardon's dominance and the fact that these teams have played already multiple times and they weren't even close probably played a role in the crowd size. So anyhow, we got a long day tomorrow, which is now 24 minutes away. Got to let Joseph drive back to the East Bay as he drives safely from Santa Clara U, or you could sleep there on that bench, right, Christian?
Yeah, he could. I gotta say, Joseph, you picked a great background. I mean, it looks straight up like I don't know where you'd get it from, but just like very nice, screensaver, very mission-esque there at Santa Clara with the nice tree in the background. So I think you should have taken a screenshot. And that could have been like your new screensaver on your computer.
There you go.
Why I think that spot was because I'm sitting right in front of a big bright lamp post right in front of me. That's the only reason I'm sitting in front of this scenic vista. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be at De La Salle Doherty Valley for the NCS boys Division 1 championship in soccer. And then I will be at Camp Lindo High for the SR.
I'm going to finish that sentence for Joseph since he just broke up. SRV Akalani's girls open division. Nathan will be he's going to see Mills early in the day against defending champion Notre Dame San Jose Division 3 game, and then off to Dublin High to see Salesian and De La Salle go at it for the open division championship of NCS. I'm going to make the trip out to Livermore to see Doherty Valley take on Redwood. Could be a very interesting matchup. And then Christian will be hanging out. Speaking of Mission, it's going to be a Mission College in Santa Clara to see a triple header, or the last 3 games on the card. So check us.
I will say before we go, we had this conversation I think last night between me, Christian, and Darren. Today at Kezar, no net cutting, free cut net was given out.
Oh, that's no, that's terrible. So, I'd rather.
There was no net. I asked about it. There was not going to be net cutting at that particular facility. So they actually brought they bought a net.
Oh my God! All right, no.
Did they cut it up? Did they at least make it look like they cut it up?
I don't know. It might have been just packaged, cut up, and then they gave it away.
That's terrible.
There was no net cutting at Santa Clara U, so.
None.
We'll put a hat on the trophy. That's better than a prefab net that hasn't even been cut down.
Yeah. All right. Check us out all weekend. All weekend, because Sunday we got the NorCal brackets coming out for both soccer and basketball. So check us out then. EastBayTimes.com, MercuryNews.com. That is a wrap for the night.